Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 27 of UnCoMfY CoNvOs. This is your boy Shiv, your guy, your dude, your man, your man boy, whatever you want to call me. And today we're going to talk about spirituality anxiety. I bet, maybe you're spiritual, maybe you're not. Maybe it gives you anxiety, maybe it doesn't. We're going to dig deeper into spirituality and just what it means and what it means to us and maybe what it means to you. I don't know what it means to you. We'll figure it out. But to talk about this anxiety, we have an amazing guest on today. He's from the UK, so that's cool in and of itself. How many of you know people from the UK? Probably, maybe a lot of you. I don't know. I think it's cool. And he's the host of the Ascension podcast. He's also a life coach. I checked out his content. Definitely can help you take your mindset to the next level. He's at the Ascension Coach on Instagram. That's his handle. Follow him there. The podcast is on all platforms. It's also on YouTube, so you can see the video format. So without further introduction, thank you so much for being on. Kamil Ram? What, dude? I forgot to look into your name. How do I pronounce your name? Kamil?
Kamil Ravin. Yeah.
Kamil Ravin. Got it.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't write that down. Oh, I did write it down. Okay. We can just pick up from that. I'm just gonna say Kamil Ravin.
You got it, bro.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go from there because I can easily cut that out. So I'm going to say, thank you so much for being on Kamil Ravin.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate that. That intro you gave there.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for doing this. I know this, this may be at no, I don't know where this falls on the priorities list, the UnCoMfY CoNvOs podcast. No, I appreciate you being on. Just to start, I know you're a life coach, you have the podcast. What made you interested in personal development?
Straight in with the deep questions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say, to be honest, I've always, if by personal development you say just trying to improve oneself and become a better version of yourself, I'd say it's been a long time really, but I'd say it really began a couple of years ago when I just coming up to the end of university, when I started to learn more about the law of attraction and how we can kind of create our reality. And I started to read more, look into these kind of personal development books about our mind, our thoughts, how we can essentially create what we want and how we react to certain events in our lives, our perspectives and how they can shift and stuff like that. So as I learned more about our minds and our bodies and the world we're in, it just kind of went down the rabbit hole. Because once I got into it, I was like, just wanted to get more and more and more and more. It became like an obsession really, but in a healthy way, not in an unhealthy way. It just became like a passion for me. And yeah, so that's when it all began really.
Yeah, was it a lot of reading and watching videos and stuff like that?
Yeah, and that kind of led to, I guess you could call it the personal development junkie trap, where all you're doing is like reading books, listening to podcasts, watching videos, doing courses, going to seminars, all of this stuff, which is great. But if all you're doing is consuming stuff, that's not going to take you anywhere because it's just information. So for a while, I was just consuming stuff without actually doing anything with it, But then eventually I kind of came out of that and started to apply what I'd been learning and actually taking action on what I wanted, as opposed to just trying to consume a bunch of stuff without doing anything with it.
Yeah, that's such a, I love that. I love that you said the personal development junkie trap. That's such a good way to put it. I feel like I've experienced that, and it's just like you have all the knowledge and you might learn all of it, but fear of taking action, which I've had too, like in college and stuff. Like I definitely was into all of that. And even now sometimes, like you can get stuck in your own head and you're like, oh, like, I know like, oh, this is what these entrepreneurs do, or like, this is what, oh, this gym person, like, or this fitness guru, like they're doing these workouts every day. And it's like, all right, like I'm going to start this week. And then you're like, I'm just going to keep watching their videos.
Yeah, what more videos can I watch? What book can I read? What course can I do? Like, just give me some more stuff until I just don't do anything with it.
Yeah. It's weird that you're finding the balance between that, though, right? Because especially being young, it's like, what do you there's a lot to learn, and then that balance between learning and then taking action. Like, I guess it's like, but sometimes I think that taking action is more important because you learn from that in a very direct way.
Yeah, because you can't learn to swim by reading about it.
Right.
You can't learn to ride a bike by reading about it.
Right.
So the same applies to pretty much anything else, I'd say.
Yeah. Is that what inspired you to take action in starting your podcast?
Well, when I did a law degree, right? And then I just did that to experience university, to do a degree that would set me up to get a suitable job, as you might say, when you graduate. So it's just kind of like the safe option to kind of set up my future. I didn't think I was going to be a lawyer straight away. It was just an option. So when I graduated, I was unemployed and doing all the job hunting and applications and interviews and assessment centers and all that horrible stuff.
Yeah.
And I decided to then just focus on law. So I started working towards qualifying, and I got a legal job as a paralegal for a year. And in that time, I was still doing this personal development learning. And in that year, I started to really think about whether becoming a lawyer is what I really wanted.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if I spend the next 40 years doing this, that just makes me sick. So I really knew I could not live that kind of unfulfilled life. I wanted to find what I really want to do. So there's no point me following this if it's not going to be what I want. So then again, I was like, where do I go from here? Because I didn't know what I was going to do now. But I kept my options open. So when I met up with this girl I used to see, and she told me about this talk she went on coaching. I never really looked too much into coaching before. It wasn't like a typical thing to think about when you graduate. So then when I went to the talk, everything just kind of clicked in place for me. Like there was like a switch that went, because in terms of the impact I want to have on people, like the transformation it creates and the way you actually help people, that for me is unparalleled to any other kind of service. And then the freedom that comes with it, the flexibility in how you work, and the scalability and the opportunities that arise as you grow in this business just all made sense to me in terms of what I wanted. So it was it got to a point in my job where I just felt like my soul like leaving my body. I was just like, I actually remember the day that happened, and it was just awful. So I thought to myself, like, fuck this, I ain't doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So then I just I signed up for the course. I left my job. I kind of just hit the ground running with everything and went all in. And ever since I've done that, it's just been like an amazing journey of growth from what I've learned in that time. And now it's like aligned. So now I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right things, and I know where I'm headed.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot more fulfillment.
100%.
That's courageous to be able to make that jump from, quitting the job. I know a lot of people, and sometimes, in the past too, myself, like you have a job and you're like, I want to leave. I feel like a lot of people are just in general, like the general tendency is to stay in that comfort. You know what I mean? Of like, if you have a job, or even like you said, you're a paralegal, to have like a level of enlightenment or a realization of like, and mixed with the courage to be able to like jump and go into something else, like that's very respectable. And that's something that's like rare, I think, in my opinion. So, that's good on you for doing that,
I appreciate that, man. It's kind of funny you bring that up, because I was talking to someone yesterday, this girl who we were doing some coaching, and she is also working in the legal field, similar to me. And she's in the same position where she's trying to work out what she wants. She's not necessarily set on coaching, but she doesn't want to do this. Like I asked her, why are you there then? And she just didn't really know the answer to that. So it's, in a way, it kind of acts as like a self-sabotage, because if you know it's not what you want and you're certain on it, and you know there's something else you want, but then you're staying there anyway, to some degree it is self-sabotage, because you're essentially just doing what you don't want to do.
Right. And that makes sense. And I even get it from a perspective of, say you're doing something you don't want to do. Maybe you got to do it for money or some reason, but you have a plan to transition into something maybe not even that you like, because I feel like generally, like, especially at a young age, maybe we don't 100% know what we like, to do, and everything's going to have challenges, right? But being able to, like, maybe have a plan to transition into something that, okay, right now this is my situation, and like, even for me, like, like right now this is where I am, like, even if like I'm working, but it's like then in the in 5-10 years, where could I be if I do this thing, and having that patience. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. Like, why would you do something that's you don't like? That's probably not healthy.
I mean, 100%. Yeah, it's if there is that need to pay bills and have the responsibilities and have that security, it's a valid thing.
Yeah.
But it's about whether you're willing to essentially put your time and effort into something else, so you can come away from that. So I'm not saying everyone leave their jobs and go start something else. That's not really the point. But it's more about, like, if you do find it, or if you're willing to look for it, and then you can put that that time and effort into making it work, then that's cool.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. And you've done it, you've started the podcast, and you went to the talks. I'm sure you invested yourself a lot with a lot of the knowledge, and, to be able to be a good life coach too. But, one of the things that I was curious about from seeing some of your content is, like, what made you comfortable and also, like, open to sharing, like, being more vulnerable or sharing, like, imperfections and stuff, I think, with your loved ones, or with just people in general, like the public, because I think your last video was about, like, sharing with loved ones.
Yeah, so that it wasn't easy at the start. It wasn't something I automatically was able to do with ease. Even sometimes now, if I'm doing a really vulnerable post, I might feel a little way about it. But I realized that if what I'm doing here is really to serve others and to help others, people resonate the most with stories of vulnerability, true personal stories, stuff they can really resonate with, because that's what's going to actually help them. If I'm just one of these motivational coaches who are just spitting out a bunch of, like, basically surface level bullshit,
Cliches.
then yeah, exactly, that's not going to serve anyone. So it's all really about the stories you tell and what you can really share with that, and that's what's going to help other people. So if I'm going to get in the way of that, then that's not really something I want to do. And another thing is we tend to make things much bigger than they are. So say, for example, if now I do a post, like, I'm seeing it like a pebble. It's like a really tiny, insignificant thing. It's just something I do now. But at the start, I saw it as this massive elephant. It was like, had all this weight and significance and importance on just sharing a post. And the only thing that changed was just my perception of it. I used to see it as an elephant, and now it's just a tiny pebble.
Yeah, that's really insightful. I mean, I think that that's a hard mindset to achieve, especially when it comes to social media, because then you have to detach from, like, other people's judgments a lot.
Oh, one thing that did really help, actually. So I hired my own coach as well to invest in myself.
Yeah.
And one thing he said to me about content and Instagram and putting all this stuff out there is, no one cares. So, and it's true. I mean, when you're on Instagram scrolling through thousands of posts and looking at all this stuff, no one gives a shit what you're doing or who you are.
Yeah.
So
you stopped posting?
No, like,
I know, I'm messing with that.
But yeah, like that did really help because it's true. Like people will see your post for about 5 seconds and then it's on to the next one. It's just forgotten about. So why would you really think about all these judgments and perceptions when no one cares, basically?
Yeah, or even if they do, it's like a momentary
Yeah,
like reaction
yeah,
and it goes away. That's so right. I mean, even with the podcast stuff that I posted and stuff like that, like, you know, it's again, that's a form of vulnerability because we're posting stuff. So it's like you release something and then, like, you know, I have my friends, my family tuning in, and even to this right now, some, you know,
yeah.
so it's probably just friends and family right now. Hopefully, you know, it's strangers too. Maybe if you're a stranger listening to this, thank you. But you know, and you're worried about how they will perceive what I'm doing. But, you know, my intention behind what I do, it's a little different, but it's more to make people laugh or entertain and help
Yeah.
a little bit, you know, like if there's something insightful. But you know, generally I've learned that attitude too, right? Like you post and, you know, especially when you're creating like podcast or like music or some sort of art form, I don't think people latch onto it right away.
Mm,
It takes a lot of time and content for people to like grow on because it's different. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you know, one thing I've noticed is, and I've talked about this before, but it's like the posts with like you at the beach, you know what I mean? On vacation with like a martini, that's gonna get a lot of likes. You posting, like, even if you're posting something on personal development, it's a speech or something like that might not get as many. Or like if I'm posting a podcast snippet, you know what I mean? It's like won't get as many. Like people still like it. Some people care. Not, you know, I mean, generally, you know, not everyone cares, as we
Yeah,
established.
it's like about the audience you have too. So like when I first started, it was a personal page. It wasn't a business page. So
Right.
I had a lot of people from university and all this stuff, and a lot of them just don't really care about personal development because they're not in it.
Yeah.
But as I've started to grow and to attract more followers that are following me for me and what I'm putting out, that's when it starts to shift because you get people following you for the content you're putting out as opposed to people that you used to know or currently know. You know, because it's just about
Yeah. Yeah.
attracting the right audience.
Got it. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I didn't think about it like that. I think you're right. Like as you continue to post more, then you'll have the people who want to listen to that type of stuff kind of be on board with you. And then, but like you said, there's people don't care, but people do. I would say you're right. Like generally people don't care. Like like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
People do judge. And I actually, you know, I was talking to this guy. He's, you know, a real estate guy, and he's I joined one of his Instagram lives. He's grown his following to a little bigger, maybe around like 40,000. But he said like he said like no matter what you post, he's like people are gonna judge you. He's like, so if you want, like, say even like with your podcast, it's like it's to help people, you know, or like to help you get through or to achieve a better mindset, right? And you know that's your intention, so you're content with that. But then, you know, people will judge however they want, but as long as like the intention behind the posts are like strong, then for me, like that's what allows me to be content. I'm like, well, you know, I was trying to do something good. Even people see it a different way.
Yeah. And the strongest way to really create changes and shifts is to lead by example.
Right.
And if you're going to walk your talk and express your authenticity and lead by example, then those that want to will follow. And you just filter out the bullshit.
Yeah. Focus on the positive, not the negative. Sorry, that was very cliche. We're trying to be authentic here. I'm just gonna recite inspirational quotes now. No, I'm kidding. But where does I know like the topic today was spirituality, anxiety. We've, you know, messaged a little bit about it. Where do you think spirituality comes into play in like personal development, or if does it even come into play at all?
To be honest, I'd say it's fairly interwoven, especially like for me. I mean, since I've got into this, I've met a lot of people into personal development, and there does tend to be a trend in terms of the kind of correlation with spirituality too.
Yeah.
But I wasn't always necessarily I mean, I grew up as a Hindu, but as
Same.
yeah, then as it got to a certain point when I didn't want to, I kind of denounced it, and I classed myself as like spiritual, but I didn't know what that meant. I
Yeah.
just said I'm a spiritual person, but that's it. Like I had no idea
Yeah.
how
Like
to
on
practice
dating
it, or
profiles.
yeah, basically like it was just like a label, because I always believed in some kind of higher power, just didn't know what it was or anything like that. So
Yeah.
that's what I spent a few years just in that, and then eventually when I started to get into personal development and law of attraction, I started to meditate and started to learn more and kind of just go more into myself. It didn't happen intentionally. It just kind of happened. Like it just, I guess you just call it some kind of like awakening, right?
Hmm.
So it just kind of happened, and I just went with the flow of it and started to learn more, meditate more, kind of go more into like the depths of myself. And then it wasn't like this process of like trying to be spiritual. I was just doing what felt kind of right to me, you know? So I just got curious. I wanted to explore more because I started to have all these weird experiences during meditation as well, which I couldn't really, um, it's like a very physical thing that was happening in terms of some things I'd like experienced in meditation. And I was like, whoa, like, what is this? What is going on? Like, I had to work out like what was happening in my body and stuff to experience that. Um, so then, yeah, I just started to learn more and get into it. And now it's quite like, it's just like a part of my life, really, interwoven with the personal development.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds really, I mean, like really cool. I mean, I meditate too. I don't know if I've ever had that level of like an awakening. But I can kind of see what you're saying in a way that's like it allows you to go into yourself, become more aware of things that you're going through,
Mm.
and maybe how you're reacting to things, your thoughts, keeping track of them, when you get distracted, when you can come back to where your focus. um so on that level, I can relate. In terms of those physical changes though, like that you were mentioned, um what was that?
Okay, so in some of like the deep meditative states I've gone into, sometimes takes the time, like with certain breathing exercises or going in for like half an hour or something. But I'd start to feel like basically like movement of energy just through my body.
Uh-huh.
It was really like profound, and like your whole body just starts to like tingle and like basically vibrate without vibrating. It's like you literally feel like your whole body like very light, like you're on air. um, and then
Wow.
certain kind of so there's these things called the chakras,
Yeah.
and they're like energy centers like
Hmm.
along your spine. And I started to feel basically some of the chakras actually like activate in a way where I'd feel the intense kind of pressure and movement of energy in them. And that's a very physical thing to experience, especially when you don't even know what's happening.
Right.
So this happened before I actually knew what they were. So
Hmm.
I was there just chilling, like just meditating, not really thinking about anything. And I started to feel this intense pressure and feeling of like energy in certain areas of my body. I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So then I had to like look up what was going on. And then one of my family friends is actually a very kind of advanced spiritual person. He started to open my eyes to what was actually going on. And I was like, okay, that makes more sense now. Because
Yeah.
it's one thing to kind of believe something, but it's another thing to feel it, like on a very physical level.
Right. Right. Wow. That's very how long would you say it took you to experience that state? Like how long into meditating?
Um, I experienced it in like a couple months, really.
Got it.
Um, and at the time, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what was going on. So
Got it.
that's when I had to kind of like look into it more.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's interesting because I do, I'll do like 10 minutes, most, every morning kind of generally. So, uh, that's, you know, but and I've experienced some things, and occasionally I'll do a sleep meditation lately. I'm getting more into it now, but
Yeah.
that's really cool that you talk about the chakras,
Yeah.
chakras.
Yeah. Chakras. Yeah.
Chakras. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I should know.
You
I
got
should know that word.
it.
Didn't it originate from India? Like, right? India?
Yeah. Hinduism, basically.
Hindu,
Yeah.
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 Chakras. I know the word. I should know the word. But no, that's awesome that, you know, you were able to feel energy flow in those areas, and then you research it and you're like, oh my God, that makes sense. That's like, so, you know, and it's like you said, it's one thing to believe in something, and then it's another thing to experience it.
Mm.
What did that, so then when you felt that and you're like, okay, I feel like energy flowing, you know, in the chakras. You got it right that time. Nice.
Well done.
Once you felt the energy flowing there, did you dig deeper into the meditation, into spirituality? Is that what led you to like be like, oh my God, I really believe in this stuff?
Yeah, it was kind of just a very natural flow of a process. Like I was just curious. I just became intrigued, and I just started to learn more and more. But then there was a trap to fall into with spirituality in terms of, and it's a trap I fell into as well until I became like aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
That people battle with their ego, right? And then you assume like, oh, if you're a spiritual person, then like you kind of don't have as much of a battle with it. But it's kind of the opposite, because once you get into like a spiritual place, you can then develop a spiritual ego, because then you start to think, oh, like I'm spiritual, like I see things this way, like these people aren't seeing things, like that kind of stuff, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
you develop that ego, and it's such an easy trap to fall into, and I did fall into it as well.
Yeah.
But then I kind of just
You think you're better than me?
But yeah, like essentially that's kind of what was going on at one point when it first happened. And then I kind of saw, I stepped outside of it, and I was like, oh shit, like this is what's happening. So I had
Yeah.
to kind of make that separation from it, you know.
Yeah.
And it is like, it just reminds me of I don't know if you've seen the movie The In-Betweeners.
No.
It's like more of like a British thing, but there's this scene like they go to Australia, and there's these spiritual people, but they're all like, oh, I'm spiritual, like yeah, I'm spiritual, like, and they're just it was just one of those. So it was like
Yeah.
that's kind of like an accurate depiction of what trap is easy to fall into with it.
Yeah, like almost like feeling the need to express that, like, oh, I'm, you know, I'm more spiritual than you, or like, you know, I have this thing that you don't have type mentality, maybe.
Yeah, literally, like that is what can happen with it. But then as another thing that was kind of going on is, as I started to like learn more and experience more, I was like, you start to just see like the whole reality in a different way.
Yeah.
So really, one thing you can become disconnected. And by disconnected, I mean like you can see this physical world we're in, and then because you've kind of learned about experience this whole other like reality that you may have come from or are going to, you can become disconnected from where you are now, having this very like physical experience in this physical world. So it's easy to then kind of get lost, basically have your head in the clouds, right? It's easy to fall into that trap as well. And that did happen at one point, because you start to just be elsewhere as opposed to just being here now, having this like physical life you're having, which is why a lot of people that start to awaken, basically they can fall into like depression and stuff like that. So that's another thing that could happen. But then it's just important to remember, like, be grounded and remember where you are now, having this experience you're having now, and just focusing on that.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point, that you could meditate too much and it could hurt you.
Basically. Yeah, literally that is essentially what could happen.
Yeah. Well, especially living, you know, in society too, unless you're a monk or something, right? Because I mean, we still have like, you know, capitalism, like having to make money, having to do stuff, family, like there's things that, you know, you can't just be detached all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that might, I don't know if this is what you're saying, but that's how I'm kind of interpreting it. Like, oh, like if you're detached too much from reality and you're able to detach from it, you know, that's good. I think the ability to again, I stuttered. I see this has been happening for all the listeners. It's happened on the last episode too. I think the ability to detach from, you know, is good. But like you said, I think if you're detached too much, then it'll probably interfere with relationships, with career, because you have to care about those things and at least have a level of attachment towards those.
Yeah, 100%. Just being grounded in like what you're doing now, because it's easy to as like just basically be somewhere else. And that's when the kind of career relationships and stuff starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
But
But I've noticed that too. Like even with not career and relationships falling apart, that's not happening to me right now. But I've noticed the when you're the ability to detach, the positive side of it, right? Like when you meditate, and I've noticed it recently, not haven't mastered it at all, but I'm working towards it. You know, and when I'm able to focus on the breath or whatever it is you focus on when you meditate. I mean, if you're just focusing on something, doesn't matter what, you're practicing that like focus muscle. Like you said, when you post something on social media or something like that, and you're so, you know, not, you're more grounded, and you're able to be like, okay, I did a post. Now I can like, I can redirect my focus towards something else without thinking of what's going on there.
yeah.
I think that's like what, even for you, like probably getting to that level of like, oh, you know, I'm post this, whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to think about it because I know I can rechannel my focus pretty easily. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it does. Detachment can be really useful, especially when it comes to like pursuing a goal.
Yeah.
Because when they always talk about becoming detached from the outcome, which is good. Not in the sense that you don't care about it, but you just are, you're good either way, basically.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, but it's another thing to be detached from the process too.
Yeah.
Because you can get really caught up in the process, even if you're detached from the outcome. So it's about having that level of detachment, both from the outcome and the process, in order to really kind of have that whole journey go a lot smoother.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, having that, like you said, it's the balance, because you don't want to be too detached because you want to care about the outcome. But I think what you're saying too is maybe like you know, say something doesn't go well. Say like, you know, you're studying law, like say you take the bar exam, right? And then you don't pass. And you know, that could be really hard on a lot of potential lawyers, right? But being able to like be in a place where you, if you can meditate, if you can focus on, if you can direct your focus on things like positive or whatever, like almost like that result or outcome isn't a reflection of your self-worth. It's more of like a societal thing, right? Like, oh, like if I didn't pass the bar, then, you know, maybe people look, you know, or whatever the judgments, you're like, oh, that, you know, I'm not as smart. But that's like not you talking to yourself. It's more of like, oh, you know, what you could talk to yourself and be like, I tried my best, whatever, you know? I feel like meditation fosters, and being able to focus energy like that fosters a healthier mindset like that.
Yeah, I like how you brought up the self-worth too, because it is easy to attach it to all these external things that we are led to believe should make us more self-worthy.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole actual concept of coaching is that you're whole and complete as you are. There's nothing to be fixed or broken.
Right.
It's just about unlocking it. So
Yeah.
you already have it all in you. Like that's it. And as a coach, you're just there to bring it out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too. I've been listening to you know, the meditation stuff and all that, like listening to some stuff, and they said accepting whatever you are at this time, like if you keep thinking like, oh, there's something wrong with me, then that's never gonna help you like move forward. Because if you keep thinking, oh, like, you know, I'm flawed over and over again, and you don't accept it, then like that could be very bad.
Yeah, like think about okay, if you look at a newborn baby, do they look like they need to be fixed or broken? Do they look whole and complete?
They look good.
So say when a baby just starts to learn to walk, if that baby was thinking, I'm not good enough to walk, man, like I need to be confident to walk, I need to have this to walk, I need to feel worthy to walk, we'd never walk. Like it would never happen. But a baby does not think that. They don't think all these, they just fucking walk because that's what they're gonna do, because they don't have all these other things that they put on it.
Yeah, that's true. That's such a good analogy.
Even when like you're a kid, say like when you're 4 or 5 years old, just running about, causing mayhem, not giving too much of a shit about stuff, you have all of that kind of confidence in you already. You don't really care too much. You don't think about it. But then as you get older, all these other things get put on top. So you already have all of it in you there, but then as you get older, all this other stuff is put on top of it.
It's almost like the over-analyzing brain of like, I'm gonna keep researching, or, you know, I just don't want to jump into whatever it is. Like you said, walking, like, right? Like that's a great analogy. I never, you know, heard that before. That's it said it's funny too. But you know, like you're right, like being able to do something and like as you get older, and I've been stuck in it too, where you're like, oh, you know, let me just keep researching and like keep like looking up how to do this instead of doing it to learn and to actually do it, you know? And it's so simple, but it's just like our brains are I think just human brains in general, they're so complex that like we're just like, you know, we can be hesitant. But going along those lines too, you know, of, you know, having imperfections, stuff like that, accepting those. What are your thoughts on like your having the ability to like forgive yourself for any mistakes and moving on from like imperfections or whatever it is, and like not identifying with mistakes or flaws that you know each person or anyone may have?
The thing is, I spent a long time thinking like forgiveness and acceptance were like great moves forward and things you should do to really grow and move on. And part of me still does think that, but I did come across the idea that forgiveness and acceptance aren't even necessary. Simply because to forgive something or to accept something, it implies that it has the ability to actually hurt us in the first place. But if everything we experience is through our own thinking and through our own feeling, everything, that means no event, no person, no experience can actually make us feel anything, because we experience it through our own thinking, which is why forgiveness and acceptance might actually be necessary. And like in personal development, there's so much bullshit out there about having to like do more, be more, like add this, add that, add a routine, add a like a meal plan, add a way of thinking, add all of these things to the ever-growing list in order to be your best self. That sounds exhausting as hell. You need to have acceptance for all of this stuff, just basically putting more and more into it. But something I kind of have been looking at recently is about subtraction. So instead of having to add all of these things onto the list, you just remove the things that don't serve you, remove all the ways of thinking, and just make it very simple.
That's super insightful. I've never heard that subtraction. Like, dude, you're like, it sounds like you're like coming up with theories, and I'm like witnessing them. And I feel very blessed. I've never thought of it like that. You're right. Like that's such a good point, that a lot of the things that I've listened to in the past, from my experience, is like, yeah, it's about adding things, like you said, like adding, you know, having a better diet, having better this, having better that. Uh, but that's such a powerful way to think about it, I think, too. Like, I mean, obviously you can still add, you can think about it like that, but the other perspective too, I think, is very helpful. Of like, let me simplify what's going on, because I feel that a lot too, and I know people and stuff that have a lot. I think a lot of us, family, friends, that from my experience, everyone sometimes can be like very inundated, whether it's at work, between work, family, all that stuff, all your commitments and priorities. But the subtraction might allow someone, or me, or anyone who kind of goes through that exercise, to like figure out, okay, what are my priorities? What can I take out of what I'm doing right now in order to just simplify it? Because probably the too many priorities, the too many things to do, the too many commitments might actually be contributing to like the bad habits, or to like the self-sabotage that you talk about, because you don't feel like you're in control.
Yeah, 100%. And one kind of question I tend to ask myself now is like, is this serving me?
Yeah.
So whether that's a habit or a person or a way of thinking, whatever, if it's not serving you, cool, make a change. If it is serving you, keep at it. Like, there's no one formula, one way of doing things. Like, there's a whole 5 a.m. club out there. Fine. If that's working for you, go for it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not part of the 5 a.m. club. I like my sleep, and I don't want to have a really hectic morning.
Yeah.
So I like to just chill. Like, I'll do like a short meditation. I might do a workout, but like, I'm not going to get up really early just for the sake of it, because it's working for me. It's working for my schedule, my routine, and everything. Like, it's about doing what works for you. Like, not everyone's the same. We're all different, and we all have different ways of working. So find what works for you and then do that. But the only way to do that is to actually try stuff.
Yeah. What would you define as serving you?
Good question. I'd say serving me is more about like, is this serving me on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level?
All of the boxes have to be checked?
Well, I'm not checking every box every time I ask myself that question, but it's more about like, is it serving my life and what I want out of it, basically.
Got it. Yeah, that's a good point. Because I think another factor of it is, whether it's through meditation, or just being able to go inward, that spirituality piece. Now that I'm thinking about it too, I think part of it could be like, yeah, meditation helps you go inwards, but I think reflection, like writing stuff down too. So I think writing stuff down about, okay, this is like whatever you're going through. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I like this. Oh, this feels good. This is more sustainable in the long run. Like, actually writing them down, I think that's a great way to figure out what serves each person, me, you, whatever it is. But it's like, when you write it down and you're honest with yourself. But sometimes I don't take the time out to do that, right? Like, to like write down, okay, this is what I'm going through. Takes 15-20 minutes maybe max, but it's like, this is what I'm going through. These are the things that I can subtract. These are the things I could adjust. And so, but I definitely think that reflection, like the self-reflection part, could be a part of spirituality as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's you could be really self-aware, but the whole point of a blind spot is that it's a blind spot. So no matter how self-aware you are, you don't know if you have a blind spot, because it's a blind spot, right?
Yeah.
So no matter how much reflection you might do, you might find stuff out, but there's always going to be ways of thinking, or ways of doing, or blind spots that you haven't discovered, simply because you haven't been taken there. So for example, like, since I've had my own coach, like, I've been challenged in ways I haven't been challenged before. I've thought in ways I haven't thought before. And I've been able to see things that I never saw, simply because the light was shone on the blind spots, right? Because you're not going to see them unless that is kind of, you're taken there.
Wow. That's good. That's great. Yeah, and that's probably a great reason to have someone like a life coach or even that figure in our lives, because then it's like, yeah. But I think again, like that requires letting go of your ego, right? To like get someone from the outside, even if it doesn't, like, it could be a life coach, could be like fitness, could be for your career.
Mm.
That requires letting go of ego a lot, because I think a lot of the times it's like, I can do it on my own. I can do it on my own. I can do it on my own. Even now with this podcast, too, it's like, well, obviously we collaborate. It's a very social thing. But also in addition to editing and stuff like that, there's people who've done it for a while, and it's like, you got to learn from people. And that I struggled with that probably early on, like, cause I was always like, I could do it on my own. You know what I mean? Like, I could do it on my own. It's like, nah, dude, there's a lot of things you can learn from people, and other people can, like you said, highlight blind spots.
Yeah. Cause, it isn't easy to be coached. One thing is the ego, but you have to face things you haven't faced, or be challenged in ways you haven't been challenged, and be willing to go to those depths. Because if you're not willing to be fully open and bring everything out, then you're not going to gain from it, because you're not willing to go to those places,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, oh, everyone should have a coach, because that everyone shouldn't. Like, it's not something for everyone.
You're plugging yourself right now. You just want to be coached by you.
That's all I'm saying. No, but like, I think what I have learned is that if you are a coach, if you are a coach and you don't have one, then I won't really take them seriously.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it.
Because if you're not willing to kind of walk your talk and go to those places, then why would someone else want to invest in you?
Yeah. Got it. So I can't be a life coach right now. But if I hire you, then I can be one. No, that makes sense to me. I completely see what you're saying. I think you're right. Like I understand. Even if it maybe you didn't, maybe you're a life coach, but you had one in the past.
Yeah, that's a different story. Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, being able to like take advice from someone who's willing to take advice from someone else probably is the chain, right? It's like you want to hear from someone who's probably on that same level of like, they're open to feedback too, and you're open to it. So
yeah, but it's not. Yeah, you're not really giving advice. I mean, it can be part of it. But it's more about letting you come to your own realizations and insights. But
reminds me of Good Will Hunting.
I watched that a long time ago. What part of it are you talking about?
There's like the counselor, and then there's like the Matt Damon. He's like he was the janitor at the school.
Yeah.
At the college. I think they're at Harvard. I think took place in Cambridge. But he was the janitor there, and he'd like see like intense math problems on the board, and he'd be able to do it just on his own.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of like issues from growing up. Like, he was an orphan, like he got beat by like his dad and stuff, like just like part of the movie, and he had a lot of like blind spots. And Robin Williams was his counselor, or at least the actor. And Robin Williams, the way he kind of helped Matt Damon get through his demons was through having him more of that approach of like a self-realization type experience. Like, he wasn't forcing his, like, whatever he thought, like Robin Williams thought was Matt Damon's issues. Like, he wasn't forcing that upon Matt Damon, but he was like kind of like maybe making like little nudges here and there, like just like not fully spelling anything out, but like being really honest and real, and just like, and then Matt Damon eventually kind of came to it, the realization on his own at the end of the movie. So that's what that reminded me of.
That was that was a good way to describe it, really. Because I mean, since I've got into this, I've seen there's tons of coaches out there, especially like on Instagram. You see them all the time, right?
Yeah, I do. I see the advertisements like on YouTube, or I see the ads. I don't know too many people, like you, or like who's doing stuff like that. I think it's
Yeah.
very unique and very brave. But I do definitely see a lot of ads.
Yeah, and like because there's so much stuff out there, people always get confused on what it actually is. So a lot of people think, oh, if you're a coach, you're just going to be like telling someone, this is what you have to do, this is what you're going to do, and like this is how you need to live your life. Like, no,
Right.
I'm, I'm not like telling anyone what to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's more of like probably like things that might serve you that could serve someone else, that have served you that could serve someone else.
It's like it's always hard to put into words because it can be a very physical thing that happens
Yeah,
when you receive it. Like that's why it's better to have it as an experience to understand.
yeah,
Um, you essentially just mess with someone's way of thinking,
yeah.
and that brings them to some kind of insight, which then shifts their life because life is like a certain way. You have an insight, and then everything changes because you're suddenly seeing things differently.
Got it. So trying to like enable like that shifting of a perspective.
Basically, yeah,
Yeah,
in some ways, that's like part of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just tell me everything that it. No, I'm kidding. I want a definition in one sentence of what goes on. No, it's probably a little more complex than that. But I do want to say like another thing I was curious about in like this personal development spiritual journey, right? Like is, you know, what separates someone who's, I mean, and again, like this isn't probably a clear cut response, but someone who's like consistent in their habits or in what they're doing or things that are maybe serving them versus a person or someone who's maybe inconsistent. Like how do you, like, consistency is always the hardest thing with this type of stuff, I think. Like whether it's meditation, like I meditated pretty consistently, but it's not easy. To the consistency side is never easy, you know what I mean?
The thing is, that's like consistency is important, especially if you want results. But another thing is we're fed this information that we need to hustle all the time. We need to work, work, work. We need to be on it. We need to put in all these hours and grind ourselves, burn the candle at both ends, and all this stuff. Like especially in entrepreneurship, that's like a big thing that's out there. So a lot of people get into it, assume they need to just be working all the time. But what I've started to learn is that slowing down is actually one of the most important things,
Mm-hmm.
not just in your doing, but in your way of thinking. Because it's easy to get caught up in your thinking and be somewhere you're not, like trying always being somewhere in the future or in the past or whatever. But when you slow down your thinking and slow down your doing, it can really change the way you show up. Because, okay, for example, like I am taking a week off next week, simply because I realized I haven't actually done that properly since like lockdown started.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like I can start to see like the toll it's beginning to take because I haven't allowed myself to just slow down and literally just do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a story about Thomas Edison, who supposedly invented the light bulb, but he used to spend every day going fishing, but he was a really bad fisherman. And he was a bad fisherman because he didn't take any bait with him when he went. And he didn't take any bait with him because the fish didn't bother him and the people didn't either. That
Yeah.
was his only time to just reflect, do nothing, and just sit there. And that's when he had some of his best insights, like using a bamboo filament for the light bulb. So allowing yourself to slow down and have that downtime is like so important because slowing down is what can help you to speed up in the long run.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's again another. You're just dropping wisdom on me right now. I'm enlightened. I agree. I've thought about that too a little bit. But yeah, definitely having that, like you said, the downtime, and it's so true. Like the hustle like mentality that's preached over and over again is important, but I think that comes after you figure out maybe what you want or what your priorities are. Then you can do that. But if you're doing it mindlessly, which I think can happen a lot, where like we're told to do things and then you just start hustling and you're just in it and then you don't question anything, then like you might then it could be really unhealthy. But like you said, if you slow down, then you have time to to think through what you actually want, and for ideas, right? Like you said, like with Thomas Edison, like light bulb, for me, like even the podcast, like this, I bring it up, but it's like, this is something, that I act on, but I had the idea probably from, downtime or being more self-aware or introspection, so I think stuff like that is definitely important. I mean, Elon Musk, I don't know. That's a big word. That's a big name to throw into the conversation right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of heavy, but I'm sure like when he comes up with inventions and stuff, he's not like, he's probably thinking about it. He's able to spend time with himself, and stuff like that. But that actually brings up another thing, like for spirituality. Do you think it's something it sounds like it's something between you and yourself, or do you think it's between you and some other energy or other being? Because religion, I feel like, is more like that, where it's like between you and something.
The whole if I was to say in one word, what an understanding of a spiritual existence is that you're an infinite divine spiritual being having a temporary physical human experience. So you're essentially you're a physical manifestation of the universe experiencing itself.
Got it. That's too deep for me right now. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna listen to the recording and think about it.
So if you were to say like, a god, right?
Yeah.
A god, a higher power, a source of consciousness.
Yeah.
You are God, basically.
I know that.
Experiencing. Yeah, you already know that anyway.
Wait, so again, okay, I'm God. I like that.
So,
let's keep going with it.
So basically, like, your God's just experiencing itself. So like this whole universe, this whole consciousness, you're having a physical experience to experience yourself.
Right. Got that. Yeah, I get it. I get that part. I got what you said there. So I understand.
Just let it marinate for a bit.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm saying like I know it. You're like I know he needs some more time. I know he needs some more time to digest that. Dude, that was so deep. I don't know. I wasn't ready for it.
that got me creasing.
No, that I'll look back into it, and I'll get back to you. It's a lot to take in the fact that I'm God. Like that's a lot. It's a heavy thing to accept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm honored that I am, but that's deep. Yeah. So moving on. No, I'm kidding. I don't know how many times it'll take you to explain it to me for me to understand. Okay, wait, let's do it again. One more time. We have to have closure to this for our listeners too.
You are a physical manifestation of the universe experiencing itself.
Manifestation of the universe. The experiencing itself part. What is that? Yeah. What is that? And what's that going on there?
Experiencing as well, this reality, everything. But you are the consciousness experiencing itself in a physical way.
Got it. I understand that. Yeah. No jokes. All jokes aside. Got it.
Good.
But yeah, no, I definitely, that's definitely something I've been curious about, because I know, religion is, I feel like, it depends on different religions and stuff like that. That's also another word that where, you know, depending on which religion you follow or whatever you believe in, it changes person to person, you know, religion to religion. But I think, I definitely think, you know, spirituality has that realm of self-reflection and like being self-aware, at least, you know, and from what you talked about it too, like through the meditation, figuring out stuff about your body or energy flow. It's like going in, you know.
Mm.
And with the Edison story, you know, too, it's like, it's just like you're able to, in those times of introspection, maybe discover things about yourself.
That was actually reminding me of a story I saw. I read in this book, this coaching book, but it's not the exact way the story was told. But essentially, like, there were these like divine beings, and they were saying, "Oh, let's put like the key to like the key to everything. Basically, let's hide it somewhere in the world for the humans to never find, or something like that." And then some of them said, "Oh, let's put it like on the highest mountain." They said, "No, they'll climb the mountain and find it." Someone said, "Let's put it in the clouds." "No, they'll get up there too." Someone said, "Put it in the depths of the earth." "No, they'll dig down there and find it too." And one of them said, "Oh, why don't we just put it inside them? Because that's the last place they'll look."
That's a great story. Yeah, that's yeah, that's very profound. I think that's definitely like opens up perspective, right? Because then it's like makes us realize like, oh, everything we need is within, like that key to unlock our potential is inside us. That's a great story. That's a great story to kind of end on. But I want to play a game really quick.
Okay.
Not really a game, but we were talking about religion, you know, a little bit. Reincarnation. I think that's something that relates to spirituality. My mom said, so this is what my mom said. This is what my mom said happens. I don't know, you know, don't judge. It's just what I recall my mom saying. When you get reincarnated, I'm Hindu, so I should know, but you die first. That's number one. You die. You have to, that starts the process. But your spirit stays alive. So my mom said like a light emerges from your chest. I've never seen this happen in real life, but a light emerges from your chest and then it'll go into like another animal or like some other thing that'll like, just like you become another animal. You're reincarnated as, you could be reincarnated as another human. You know what I mean? So if you were reincarnated, what would you be reincarnated as? What would you want to be reincarnated as? Number one. And then what do you think you would be reincarnated as?
I don't want to come back. I'm done here. I just want to. Yeah, I'm happy to just float away and just be somewhere else.
All right, that answers that question. No, but if you had to pick an animal, basically the main question, if you had to pick an insect, animal, or a life outside of human life,
it has to be outside human life.
Has to be outside human, yeah. I mean that's
okay.
I mean, I think who wouldn't pick human after being a human?
This is true. Okay, let's give this one a think. I'd have to say probably a bird, man. I want to be flying out there. Can't really beat that.
Yeah. What kind of bird?
Oh, one that doesn't get hunted, probably.
Good spots. Oh. Yeah, no, that's smart. Yeah, you made me think of the Harry Potter owls.
Oh yeah, it's like a tawny owl or something like that.
The messenger ones, yeah. Could do that. I respect that. You know, I think you wouldn't want to be like a lion or something.
My first thought was lion, but it sounds like a bunch of effort to be a lion.
Really?
Yeah, because you gotta always just be like, try not to starve to death, and having to compete with everyone all the time. But
yeah, like, that might be harder than finding worms in the soil.
Who would you be?
I would be maybe like what's the coolest animal? Do they have to be alive right now?
Oh, so you mean like a T-Rex or something?
That'd be sick. I mean, what's gonna stop you then? You know?
Your arms.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they would stop me. I couldn't do push-ups. I don't think T-Rexes can do push-ups, right? The arms wouldn't reach.
You couldn't use that lovely equipment behind you. Not that you use it anyway, but
Yeah. I would probably be all right if I'd pick right now. I'd probably be like a domestic. And this is kind of, I don't know if this breaks the rules. Well, I'm creating the rules, so I'd be a domesticated dog.
Why?
Just like live in a nice, house. Like
Nice house, yeah.
Life's very simple then, And you can.
What about when you get your balls chopped off?
Right. Yep. Didn't remember. I didn't keep that part in mind. Okay, maybe I'm gonna be something else. I love how that's like not brought up that much. That dogs get neutered, like it's literally like people don't talk about it.
I mean, I've seen a few memes, but yeah.
Yeah, like, but just generally, like when I bring it up, like with people are like, yeah, it's just a natural part of a dog's life. I'm like, no, it's not. You just talk balls. Like the natural part of its life is to have its balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably would want my balls. How do you pee? How do you pee after that?
I don't think pee comes from your balls, bro.
Well, True. Well, I was assuming that the chopping on the balls part, that the where you pee from got chopped off. I don't know how it works for dogs. All right, if my balls got chopped off, I think everything would get chopped off.
Oh, so you think the pillar and the stones all at once?
Right. So that's why I'm very confused.
Oh yeah, I think they still keep the
pillar.
The phallus. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh man, that was good. And then just to end this, reincarnation. I know we talked about good karma, bad karma. Obviously, in Hinduism, that's a thing, and some other religions. But good karma. If you feel like you have good karma, I get like, what would you be reincarnated as if you had good karma?
So, to be honest, in spirituality, reincarnation is a thing, but so like there's the cycle, right, of birth and rebirth, and not necessarily back into this kind of world. There are like other realms, but the whole purpose is to reach a level of consciousness where you don't have to recycle, you leave it.
Oh, okay.
So instead of being caught up in the constant cycle of basically cycling levels of consciousness, once you reach a certain level of consciousness, you then are free of it, and you are essentially just one with the source.
Got it. I get that. I think I understand that one. So say the spirit comes out of your body, right? Are you saying like that spirit just becomes a part of the universe without going into anything else?
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously I can't, like, I don't think I've done that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like there are like cycles.
Well, you're still a human, so.
Yeah, I haven't quite reached it yet. But yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Yeah. And that's like what we could call maybe like the ascension. the Ascension podcast. I don't know. I wanted to tie it into the podcast too. That
Yeah, I mean, I guess I called it the ascension for different levels, but one of them is like, yeah, one of them is just kind of rising up to like your higher self,
yeah,
you know, and raising others with you.
it's deep. I like that. I like that name a lot. Deeper than UnCoMfY CoNvOs for sure. No, but that's awesome. That's all kind of all I wanted to touch upon. I think that was a great conversation. I definitely talked about like obviously introspection and being able to go inside yourself and good habits and things that serve you. Just recapping and to our listeners, I hope you heard something that was insightful. And I just wanted to give some time for plugs. Do you want to do any plugs?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to contact me or check out stuff, then I'm just on mostly Instagram at the Ascension Coach, Facebook, Kamil Ravin. The podcast is the Ascension Podcast. That's pretty much like the main places to find me. LinkedIn, if you want to do that, same, Kamil Ravin.
Yeah, follow Kamil on everything now. Do it now. I'm gonna pause the podcast. I'm gonna wait and allow for a silence while you do it. All right, I think that's enough time. You probably followed him on everything in those 2 seconds. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks a lot, bro. I had fun. It was good to crack some banter.
Yeah, it was, and have that conversation. And for our listeners, stay tuned for the next episode. This UnCoMfY CoNvOs train doesn't stop rolling. You know what I mean? Maybe for some introspection, it'll stop rolling a little bit. If I'm thinking about stuff, but it's, if it's a little bit of time off, it's time to make it better. So, you just stick with me, please. We'll have some more episodes. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.